Hello everyone, welcome to another weekly market report. We're going to go over some of the recommendations I made last week, and then we're going to look at the indices and go over the watch list again. So last week I made a recommendation regarding IWM. This was actually from 2 weeks ago, and I said I'm going to short IWM at 190.31. So right now we would have been making good money. And again, the target price for me is going to be right around here, so 181. Let's look at American Airlines. I said I was going to short at 16.28 and the target was going to be 15.5. We hit the target last week. So we shorted over here and it went all the way down here. We would have been able to make 4.71%. You would have made 4.7% if you had taken this trade. Let's look at car. And this is car. I said I was going to short car at 214.5 and the target price was 184. So I would have short it over here and the target price was here. So we are still not in the green, but I do believe that eventually in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will come back down to fill this gap. Now let's look at FISB, which was short at 115.65. Here, I thought that it was going to go down from 115 to 111. So we have still not hit the target, but I do believe in the next 2 weeks we are going to hit the target. But we are still in the green. We shorted over here, and here is the target. So we are moving towards it. Nokia, we are going to go long at 4.67. So in Nokia, we are still not in the green, but we did gap down, and I do believe that in the next 2 weeks we will fill that gap, and we will move towards the target. PFE was long. Let's look at PFE now. We went long in PFE at 43.93 and the target was 46.12. We are still not in the green, and we gapped down as well. But I do believe in the next 2 weeks we will be going back up to fill that gap. So last week I made 3 recommendations. One was in Snap, one was in Uber, and one was in Upwork. So let's look at Snap right now. I was expecting Snap to go up to fill that gap, which I do believe will happen in the next 2 weeks. Let's look at Uber now. Last week I recommended that we were going to be going short. So right now we are in the green and we have to go all the way down here. So we're at the green and we will keep on holding on to this trade until we reach the target. Now let's look at Upwork. I mentioned in Upwork that we were expecting it to go up to reach this target of 12.81. I'm still holding on to the long trade, and I do believe that in the next coming 2 weeks we will move up and fill that gap at 12.81. Now let's look at what happened in the indices last week and where I think we'll be going in this week and the next 2 weeks. So we ended the week slightly down, and we didn't have any gaps on top, but we still have a gap down here at the bottom. I do believe that we're going to go back. We might go up a little bit, and then we're going to trend back down again. So we might go up a little bit because we have a trend line over here forming. We have a bottom here as well as a bottom over here. So I do believe we're going to bounce off this point over here. We're going to go up a little bit, and then we're going to come back down. I do believe that we will hit this 1 week gap in the coming 2 weeks or the coming few months. IWM, again, the same story. We didn't fill any gaps, but we are on the way down as I expected a few weeks ago. So I do believe that we will jump a little bit and we will come back down. At the end of the day, maybe next month or so, we will for sure hit this point over here at the bottom. The chances that we will continue going up all the way to the top, I think is very likely, and eventually we will go back down and fill this gap here. For the cues, we had a gap on top over here. I do believe that next week or next 2 weeks we will go up to fill this gap over here, or it might be that we go down, fill this gap at the bottom, and then we go back up. But this gap here will be filled for sure. So I would love to be going long at this point. In fact, I'm going to make a recommendation as well. I'll be going long from here and expecting it to fill this gap over here on top. Now here it is the same thing. We gapped down a little bit last week, and I do believe that for the next week and the next 2 weeks we'll be going up to fill this gap on top. We're going to fill this gap and then we might continue going down. So this gap is going to be filled most likely, and then we are likely to go down again. But right now I would be going long in SPX. I would be buying calls. In the SPY, we again, SPX and SPY are the same almost. So here I would be going long as well because I believe that we are going to go up, we are going to fill this gap over here, and then we might trend back down. But for now, I believe that we're going to fill this gap on top. So I would be going long in SPY at the moment. Now let's look at some of the stocks on the watch list to find any uh, any trades, any trade ideas. So American Airlines we looked at already. So I'm not going to be talking about this. We were expecting this gap to fill, and it did. So we have reached the target. Where are we going to go from here? But it's not exactly clear to me. So I'll be skipping it. Burlington, I'm not going to be making a recommendation here as well. Uh, because I cannot really see a trade over here. Citigroup again, I do not see a trade over here. I do think the gap here will fill eventually, but right now I will not be going short. We have looked at car already. I do believe they will go back up to fill this gap. So, but I'm going to hold off because, as you might remember, 2 weeks ago I took a short position over here, and I thought we were going to go down and fill this gap. So I will not be going long, but I do believe that it might go up a little bit, fill that gap, and come back down eventually. At the moment, right now, I will not be making a trade. Now let's look at Carnival Cruise Line. I was expecting it to go down to fill this gap, and it did. It still needs to go down a little bit more to reach the target, but we could have easily made 8.64% had we gone short on this trade. Now let's look at CleanSpark. It gapped down slightly, making a little gap on top. Remember that there is a very strong support over here at the bottom. So if it does go down below it, it will go down a lot more. Then you can expect it to go all the way down over here. I have set an alert here at $2 a share, 2.04, because I think if it goes down to $2, I'll be going long and expect it to go back up. So there is a good opportunity to make quite a bit of money if it does go down to $2. So I would recommend that you make an alert for $2 a share, and if it reaches it, you can go long. Now let's look at Crooks. It jumped quite a bit last week, and it made a gap on the bottom, and it did fill as I expected. But I will not be making a trade at the moment because I think there's a very strong support and resistance over here. Uh, it might bounce off of it and go even higher. So I will not be making a trade at the moment. Here in CTIC, a similar story. I will not be making a trade. Although there is a gap at the bottom and I would love for it to fill, but I will not be making a trade in that expectation. Now here, we were expecting this gap to fill for a very long time, and it did. Eventually, I do believe that we will. So this was the target that we were hoping to achieve, and we did achieve it. So at the moment, I will not be making a trade. But what you can do is you can go slightly long in the expectation that we'll go back up to this point. So you can easily make about 4, 5 to 6% on this stock in the next coming week. Actually, I will be making a recommendation for Dash in my post. So you can expect to go long on the stock and expect to make about 5 to 6% if it goes up. In fact, I'm going to be making this recommendation on my Patreon page. You can choose to follow it. It is very cheap, and I have no subscribers. Hopefully, when I reach 100 subscribers, then I'm going to increase the price. But for now, it is extremely cheap. And as you can see, the recommendations I made do hit the target. So we are entering Dash. We are going long at 55.09, and the target price is going to be 58. We did very well on Dash last time, so hopefully this time it works again. Here we did make a big gap down. I do think that over the next week, next 2 weeks, we will fill that gap over here. But it's not going to be a whole lot of money that we can make. I'm expecting to make about 1.6% or 2% maximum. So I will be going long on DBX. So DBX long at 20.6, and the target price is going to be $21 a share. So now let's go down and look at more stocks and hopefully try to find some trades over here. FISV, we have been short. This trade is still open, so I'm not going to be making a trade again. Let's look at FXI. Again, not going to be making a trade, although I do believe that we will go back up and fill this gap here, but we are not going to be making a recommendation at the moment. Groupon. So tomorrow we're going to be getting earnings from Groupon. I do believe that we will see a slight jump in Groupon and we're going to fill this gap on top. So I could decide to do the wheel on Groupon because I do believe eventually it's going to go back up. I think this is an amazing stock to be doing the wheel strategy on. Now if we go down, we have HIMS. HIMS just continues to go up and up. They have earnings next week, on Monday actually. So you can expect it to go down to fill this gap. I will be going bearish on HIMS because the expectation for the revenue is quite high. I do not believe they're going to hit the target, the expectation. And I think it's going to go back down to fill that gap on the bottom. So I might be going short on HIMS. This is Honest. We will not be making a trade on Honest because extremely volatile. It can go down by quite a bit. Joby, we were expecting that gap to fill and it did. I did not make a recommendation, but I did have an expectation that this gap was going to fill and it did. This gap was made on earnings, so I expected it to continue a little bit in the same direction, but it did turn around and fill that gap, which does not always happen, but sometimes it does. Now over here, we are expecting, we will not be making a trade over here, although there is a gap at the bottom and it might likely fill. We can go short, but not a whole lot. You can sell some call spreads over here in the hope that it's going to stay below this level over here, below this high. But the premiums are not going to be very high. And now Meta, it jumped up on earnings and it starts to come back down and it feels like it will fill this gap over here before going back up. But we are not going to be making a trade on Meta right now. MSTR, again, we're not going to be making a recommendation. I did want you to, last week, you might remember that I said I'm going to double down on MSTR over here in the expectation that we'll go back down to this level. I still believe that we'll go back down to fill this gap over here. So if anything, I will be going either short or I'm going to be selling call spreads in the hope that it will remain below this level over here. Nokia, we can make a trade over here in the hope that we'll fill the gap on top. But as you might remember, last week or 2 weeks ago, I made a recommendation that we're going long over here in the expectation that we'll reach this target here. So it has gone down a little bit. I will not be doubling down on it. If it does reach this level, then I will double down and say that we reached my target all the way here. which will give me an opportunity to make a lot more money. But I will not be making the trade at the moment. NUE is looking really good. I think now that we have filled that gap here at the bottom, we will be going back up to fill that gap on top. Now here in OSTK, earnings came out. The earnings were not really great. I was expecting them to do really well, but it is still a very good organization, and I would love to sell puts on it and do the wheel strategy because I don't think it will go straight down, and especially because the earnings have come out. This is an excellent stock to do the wheel on. In PFE, we did make a gap uh, here on top because we gapped down. I will be buying over here in the hopes that it will fill this gap here. So I'm going to be making a recommendation on PFE, hoping that it will go up and fill this gap on top. So two of the stocks I've already recommended, Dash and DBX, and now I'm going to be recommending PFE. There is no trade over here in PLTR. We will not be making a trade on the stock. Now in PayPal, we can choose to go long. There is a little bit of a gap over here. We have almost reached the target. We went short over here. We are doing quite well. It might go down a little bit more to fill this gap, but even now it has filled the gap a little bit. I will choose to make a long trade in the hope that it will go up and fill this gap over here. I mentioned it last week as well, or maybe 2 weeks ago. But right now, this is an opportunity for you to double down in the hope that we will go up and fill the gap on top. Here in Ride Blockchain, we will not be making a trade, although I do believe they will go back down and fill the gap at the bottom. We have earnings coming up on Tuesday for Smile Direct Club. I think the earnings are going to be dismal. They're going to be horrible. And it's not going to go up quite a bit or it's not going to go down, but I'm not going to be trading it. Looking at TDOC, it doesn't look like we have a trade over here. It looks like there are no opportunities, so we're going to skip TDOC. Now we'll be looking at Tesla. Tesla went down a little bit last week. Next week and next 2 weeks, I hope that will go up slightly, and but I will not be making a trade at the moment. Let's look at TTCF. This is a stock where you can sell puts. You can do the wheel strategy, but I will not be going long on TTCF. In Uber, we already have a short position. I believe that we will go down to fill this gap over here, or at least fill the gap here. So I will remain short. I will not be going long on Uber. Upstart, you can choose to go long because it does look like you will go back up to maybe fill this gap, or you could actually do the wheel strategy on it and make a little bit on the premium side. Upwork, we already have a open position that is long. We open the position over here. I do believe that in the next 2 weeks we will fill this gap. In WBA, we will not be making a trade because it is not quite clear which way it will be going in the next few weeks. In terms of Zillow, we were expecting this gap to fill and it did. We shorted it here and we were expecting it to go down here and it did. We could have made 7%. From here, where do we go? Well, the chances are that we will pop a little bit because we did go down quite a bit last week. So next week, you can expect it to go up a little bit, but the long-term trend in the next 2 weeks or the next month is going to be down and towards this gap over here. So that was all for the watch list. I'm going to be making 3 recommendations. These are the 3 recommendations. If you would like to subscribe to my Patreon page, you can find the link in the description. I make these recommendations every week. And once we reach 100 subscribers, I will be offering more value on the Patreon page. So do subscribe to the channel, to the Patreon page as well as the YouTube channel. I do not have any subscribers on my channel right now, but I will continue to make these videos because they will serve as a track record to show you exactly how I have done in the past. So thank you so much for watching and good luck. Thank you.